No one plans to fail. You've heard it a million times, right? No one plans to fail. They fail to plan. Well, in this episode, I'd like to draw parallels between another industry, another profession in trading, and that would be professional pilots. Because for pilots, planning is essential to avoid catastrophic outcomes. And there's a lot we can learn from how pilots approach planning and what we can do in trading. So let's have some fun. Let's check it out. All right, professionals, no matter what the industry or area people are working in, right? They don't rely on recovery skill, on dramatic recoveries. They rely on planning to avoid needing it. And there's a great quote that it's like posted on every wall on a poster in every flight training center I've ever seen. It says, a superior pilot uses superior judgment to avoid situations which require superior skill. Totally applies to trading. That's not just aviation advice. It's for any professional endeavor, and it applies directly to trading. So what is it that pilots do? Well, they plan the flight ahead of time, and that we should, as traders, we should do that as well, right? Pilots, before they take off, they have a flight plan. Of course, they know where they're going. They have determined some alternate sites, if the weather changes or runway gets fouled or whatever, and they have enough fuel for the contingencies. If I can't make it to this point or I'm in a holding pattern or whatever, right, I got enough fuel to land this thing. So traders, we need a defined plan before we place an order. It's like, what's my entry criteria? How do I manage trades? How do I deal with risk management? What's my exit strategy, right? Defined entry exit points according to whatever your system is, your indicators, your setups, whatever, and risk clearly defined before we get into the trade. Pilots use checklists extensively, and I think that can apply to traders, right? To at least have a simple checklist before we get into a trade. So pilots, they rely on verification, not memory, right? If you've ever seen video of them in a cockpit, pre-flight, before they land, before they do, they whip out the checklist and they start, and there's two people and it's like, we're landing, gear down, check. So they rely on verification, not memory, and that's been learned over time because stress can degrade judgment. So you want to have it all thought out ahead of time, and it's okay. Here's the situation. Here's what we do, and we just follow the checklist. And these protect decision quality. So for traders, a quick objective review. It's like, wow, I like this chart. I like this setup. Does that match my trading plan? It'd be nice to have a checklist. I'm looking for this, that. Yeah, check. Oh, wait, what's this? It adds time for decision making because you have to stop and look at the checklist, right? And that can be a good thing. And the final check item would be, am I going to regret this trade if I take it? If I just kind of jump in and then it's like, oh, what was I thinking? And there's another great aviation saying, which is, I'd rather be on the ground wishing I was in the air than to be in the air wishing I was on the ground. And that, you ever been in a trade where you're like, I kind of wish I was on the ground. I wasn't in this trade right now. A great parallel, I think. All right. Contingency briefing or what if thinking. It's really important, right? Pilots, it's like, okay, we're getting ready to take off. If we're going to reject this takeoff, what are we going to do? And if we do take off and need to return, what's the altitude and the heading and all that kind of stuff? If we need to go around, what are we going to do if an engine fails on takeoff? That's actually what they call a memory item. They have to memorize like some critical steps, right? Taking off, engine fails, 1, 2, 3, do this, do it now, right? And then diversion decisions. It's like, okay, what if these things happen at the planned destination? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And traders, it's like going into a trade, what could go wrong? What will I do? Have a backup plan for power and internet outages, loss of trade visibility. I've had that happen, and it's uncomfortable sitting here, like particularly if you're day trading and you're looking at your monitor and you're in this position and boom, power went off, lights went off, internet's off. What am I going to do? So it would be good to have thought that through. Now, typically there's something we can do on our phone, but it would be nice if you already had the account set up, the mobile app loaded, and you had tested and know if I lose power, lose internet on my desktop, not a crisis. I can handle it, or at least I know the phone number to the trade desk and I can call and, take action. It's just contingency thinking, right? And, what's the worst case? How am I going to handle it? Just think through some scenarios. Pretty valuable. In-flight monitoring, trade management. I really think these are similar, and for pilots and traders, right? We observe what's going on. We don't over control and tweak everything constantly. Only adjust when the conditions warrant it. When the conditions have changed, calm monitoring versus constant interference, and follow the plan, which assumes you have a plan. And then, preparing for a landing or exit discipline in trading, right? Pilots have criteria. We got to be on a stabilized approach. There's certain parameters for that. Plan checkpoints as they, line up for the runway, and go around is always an option. And, it's like, hey, if we're not stabilized on approach, then we'll do a go around and we know, which way we're going to turn as we go over the airport and, what altitude and control settings. And traders, right? As you're preparing for the exit, let the winners run. Emotional exits undermine P&L. We've talked about that in some of the other videos. It's like, oh, I'm in some profit. I don't want to lose it. Close the trade. You end up with small winners, small losers, and you're a break-even trader, right? Scale out profit at predetermined levels. Have a plan. Close the trade for objective, predefined reasons. And then, to kind of close all of this up, this is the 7th episode in the series, right? For pilots, success ultimately is, hey, your landings equal your takeoffs. We don't crash, right? Things may happen. Plans may change, but they're dealt with in a controlled manner. The outcome is positive. And for traders, success, smooth upward trending equity curve. We know not every trade's going to win, but hopefully if we have a well-constructed system, the system is going to be overall a winning system and will be profitable. So keep your winners big and your losers small. And there is at the end of this video, there's some links to the rest of the series and some other videos that you may find helpful about risk management and some other tools. So hope you found it helpful, and check out the rest of the series if you haven't seen it. All right. Thank you very much.